So every year we've been trying to engage patients to speak at this symposium so that we get a perspective from the real, the people that we're trying to help. So Rick Waines, are you there?
No.
No? Cool. Okay, so then we'll just skip ahead. All right, Rick, 7 minutes, you promised.
I'm going to come in under 7.
Cool. All right, well, I'm going to just go like that. I'll leave it there. Go for it.
Hi, folks. My name is Rick. I'm on the National Board of the Canadian Hemophilia Society, and one of my responsibilities there is blood safety and supply. The Canadian Hemophilia Society is a bit of a misnomer. We represent all folks with inherited bleeding disorders. What about acquired hemophilia, you say? I don't know. We don't represent them. They're on their own. I have factor VIII deficiency, under 1%. And a couple of years ago, I was offered the opportunity to take part in a trial for gene therapy. And in the end, I ended up enrolling and withdrawing. I said no to the cure. And I thought it would be good to give you some insight as to why I made that decision. And in order to do that, I think we have to go back to the beginning. I was born in 1966. I mean, my family has benefited from a lot of innovation. My uncle with hemophilia A, same as me, was born in 1941 and had no effective treatment at all until, well, I guess you could probably say until cryoprecipitate came along, but he was the first kid in Canada to be treated with plasma that was made in Canada in 1950 something or other. So 1966 comes along, and it's good timing for me because we now have cryoprecipitate. The challenges with that were that I would have to travel to the emergency, wait for several hours, and sometimes be seen not by a phlebotomist, but once, in fact, by the splint guy, and who I guess had some needle training. It took about 10 or 12 tries, apparently. I read a newspaper article that said when I was 2 years old, I'd been to the ER 20 times and had had 50 different infusions. So that's a burden of treatment and a burden to the family. When I was about 7 or 8, we got to transition to home care, which was a great improvement, but still a lot of rigmarole, plasma, cryoprecipitate and saline and tubes and everything needed to be kept in the freezer, of course, and so travel was very difficult. And this was all on demand, so I was bleeding a lot into ankles and elbow, and so it wasn't a great time. And I remember once, just before my mom was to plunge the 15-gauge needle, 21, and into my arm, I said, "Mommy, I wish I didn't have hemophilia." And her answer remains with me today and helped inform my decision around gene therapy. So a little bit later, we moved to lyophilized fractionated products, which improved my treatment again. And the amount of factor VIII in the product rises exponentially. You can keep it in the fridge and on the shelf for 30 days, so we're able to travel. The treatment works much better. But it also had a lot of HIV and hepatitis C in it due to an institutional disgrace. And so both my uncle and I acquired hepatitis C and HIV. That product got better over time, safer, more effective. Longer acting molecules came along, which meant that around that time I started doing prophylaxis. So the treatment is effective. I'm not bleeding anymore, much anyways, but it's still IV every other day, which is a burden. And after 57 years with a bleeding disorder and hepatitis C and HIV, those burdens start to pile up. And so anything that I can do to reduce that burden seems like a good idea to me. So 10 years ago, things start to exponentially change for us. There's rebalancing agents and monoclonal antibodies, and a long promise of gene therapy. And I never thought I'd be in a position to get gene therapy, because I figured by the time we got it approved up here, there's no way it would be funded. that is changing, and when I was given the opportunity to do the trial at St. Paul's, I was like, this is my chance. I'm going to get rid of this. Very exciting. But while I was on the investigational arm of it, I started to learn more about the factor VIII side of gene therapy, and as we've heard, the promise of a cure, even the promise of a functional cure, didn't seem very realistic to me. The factor VIII expression is unpredictable, quite low in general, and tails off over time. And coincidentally, around this time, with the Hemophilia Society, we advocated and were successful at getting a monoclonal antibody that is subcutaneous and once a week, and gives you a baseline of about 25%. And I was, sign me up. So I withdrew from the trial, said no to the cure, and started this monoclonal antibody, which has radically changed my life. I 0 bleeds and a stable 25%, and subcutaneous once a week, which has improved my adherence and my the emotional impact of the burden of treatment. So getting back to how my mother answered that question all those years ago, "Mommy, I wish I didn't have hemophilia." And she said, "I know, Ricky. I wish you didn't have it either. But you do." Thank you.
Thank you so much. Other questions or comments?
And that was 6 minutes, by the way.
Yeah. He promised me. Okay.
So congratulations, you kept to time, unlike the rest of us so
Yeah.
far. So I just was kind of curious. So I've been heavily involved in the hemophilia therapy world, and in a very short amount of time, as you say, it went from this is a cure to, as data emerged, maybe not meeting expectations, which I think is excellent. And I was just going to, actually not the data, but that families knew this and had access to the data, and as you know very well, the community is quite educated. So I was just curious how you get how do you access information, obviously for your medical team, but outside of your hospital's team?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think that while the bleeding disorder community in general is fairly well educated around the issues, I would say that our biggest challenge inside of gene therapy, something we've been working a lot on the last year or two, is creating the tools for our patient populations to understand the differences between 9 and 8 in particular, and helping to lay out the risks. One of the other reasons I decided not to was 6 months of steroids, which I didn't feel like I wanted to layer on top of my HIV. So I think our folks are maybe not quite prepared yet enough for these decisions that they'll be potentially facing, and that's our number one goal right now. I mean, I got mine because I'm part of the Blood Safety and Supply Committee, and I try to share that with everyone, and I go to meetings like this, and that was an important part of my process in understanding that I didn't want to proceed, was just being able to make sense of what the 8 was how that was progressing or not. Thanks.
I hate to call on you.
I can't do better than Rick.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For sharing
Thank you.
your